Hey everyone, how are you doing? You have Mike here, and today we're going to do a pretty big chop down of this tank. We're going to trim it all down, and we're going to replant some of this into the 20-gallon tank. So I've completely remade over the 20 gallons, so we have some room for some plants. And yeah, so before I get started, I did get in a package of tools. Now we actually picked these up on Amazon. This here was actually paid for by you guys with the Amazon purchases. This comes from our Amazon affiliate account, so when you guys do purchase something from a link, we get a small percentage of the order. We actually just had enough to get a set of tools. I believe these ones here are about $24.99, I believe. But yeah, so I'm just going to open these up here and just show you what we got. So for the 25 bucks, we actually picked up a double-sided rake, which is cool for moving around your substrate. We got a pair of straight scissors. I'm just going to put these down here. Then we got a pair of curved scissors. Now this is really good if you're kind of in a spot where you're having a hard time to actually snip a plant. You could use these ones here. Then we have two different sets of tweezers. One at an angle. This is kind of the same thing here that Kevin lent us, which we can now give him back his. So, and we have another set of straight tweezers. So now that we have all the tools to get this tank cut back, I do want to thank you guys for all your purchases. That really does help us out. Like you guys see, we now have some tools. So let's get started. So alright, as you can see, some of these plants are fairly growing pretty fast. This Rotala here is growing just absolutely crazy and really needs to be cut back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put about an imaginary line right about here. And I don't want any of my plants to kind of go over this line. So some of these plants, when I cut them off, they're going to actually come out with kind of like two separate plants that come off of the one. Now that's my hope for some of these plants, because I'm trying to get rid of this kind of line of trees effect. Now I'm getting this information here from Kevin's video on how to trim stem plants. That's a great video, and it really helped me out in my attempts to, you know, just planning out how I wanted to cut it, because you can't just randomly cut. Well, I guess you could just randomly cut stuff off, but that's really not what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm trying to get a fuller look, and by doing that, I'm trying to cut my plants in specific spots so that they kind of merge and split off into two. Now those will eventually grow up to the top. I can cut them and then replant them down in the bottom to kind of give it that bushier look and see that you see in some of these beautiful aquariums. So that's what I'm going to do here today. Of course, some of these plants here, I can't just, you know, replant them down the bottom because I don't really have that much more room in this tank. It's time to just let it really grow now. So I'm going to put some of these plants here in the 20-gallon tank, like I said before, and that's going to be needed because some of these plants will be going into my 75-gallon when we plant that tank very soon. So you guys get a little sneak peek of what I'm kind of planning on doing. So yeah, let's kind of get it cutting this stuff back. So right here is actually what you're going to see where I've cut these off. Now they're going to split off into two, and in about another couple of weeks or maybe in a month or so they'll reach the top, and I can actually cut these again at the same height and actually lower these, and it's going to give me more of a bushier effect with the plant. Now another thing I picked up from Kevin's video is that, you know, eventually there's going to be so much vegetation there that the bottom of the plant is kind of going to look, you know, terrible anyway at a point, and because it's just not getting enough light, right? So what I'm going to do there is just pull out that plant, cut it where it looks good, and then replant it. And then that plant can continue to grow and thrive. And like I said, it's going to have multiple breaks off it, and it's going to look very cool. So that's what I'm actually trying to go for here. Alright, so I've been at it for a while now. As you can see here, we've got quite a bit trimmed out. There's quite a bit floating on the top. That's cool. So what we're going to do is going to get to a little bit of the Hydrocotyl Tripartia SP Japan. So what I'm going to do with this is you can actually trim and cut this stuff, and we might do that with some of it. But what I'm going to do is actually just kind of tuck it under some rocks, and it'll kind of catch to the ground eventually. And it should accomplish the exact same thing as what I'm trying to do here. So what I'm going to do is pick up this rock, and it looks like I have some Java attached to this rock, so I'm going to pull it off. And I'm just going to place it on top like this, and it's just going to slowly kind of spread it. You can see it's actually starting to, its runners starting to settle over here. We got some more hydrocotyl coming up over here. Now I'm probably going to move this because I don't want this quite there, because I don't want it to choke out another plant. So we'll just dig a hole and place some rocks on top of it. Good to go. Now I will be cutting some of this back because there's actually some of it here that's maybe not doing the absolute best possible. And I think it's just because there was so much here that it wasn't getting the light that it needed to. And it's kind of all the ones that are kind of a little bit lower. So once again, we're going to just try to like get rid of some of this stuff and clean it up a little bit. Okay, so now that I've got it untangled, I'm actually going to come in and I'm going to trim some of these ones back, because we're going to cut some of these out and we're going to transplant these into 20 gallon. So once again, I'm going right up here, almost directly to the stem, and I'm just going to give it a good cut. Now this here is going to come off, flow to the top, and that's going to go in the other tank. So I'm going to pull out my Flourish glue. I got a little tiny bit of it left, and I'm going to glue this piece right in the center there. I kind of like the leaf is a little bit fluffy here, which the spiky moss actually does a really good job. It kind of poofs right up. The shrimp really do like it, and since I do have the rams in here, they do definitely like having a place to hide in the tank. So that is a very good spot for them. So I'm going to try to rebuild this here and make it a little better for them. Alright, so this whole process basically took about maybe an hour and a half. It did take me quite a while to plant it in the other 20 gallon tank. And it did take me a little bit to actually cut all the plants and get everything kind of the way that I wanted it. As you see, I did kind of go with a line here, and it's not maybe as even on this side as I would actually like it. But hey, you know, this is my first major attempt at clipping a tank and trimming it. And I think it turned out fairly well. One thing I really did wanted to do was actually cut some of the Java moss on the background and kind of spread it a little bit further. But when I actually started doing that, I noticed that there was tons of shrimp in the Java moss. And by I mean tons, there was probably about 100 shrimp that I found just kind of coming out. And some are like really tiny. So I'm starting to believe that maybe some of the shrimp are actually reproducing for me. So that is really cool. And I have actually noticed quite a few shrimp actually just showing up within the last maybe like week or so. I can see little tiny ones everywhere, so I'm pretty hopeful. So one other thing that I did see in actually cleaning out this tank is I actually found a little trident java fern. It's been in there the whole time. Kevin brought it over when we first started the tank, but it was a little bit small and it didn't really have that much growth on it. And we figured, we'll throw it in here and see what happens. Now, I guess it's actually turned around because it's starting to look pretty nice. So I'm pretty happy with how it looks, and we gave a nice dose to both of the tanks because they both had a big water change. Gave them a couple shots of Thrive, and it's really, I'll tell you something, since I started using Thrive in my tank, it really has popped quite a bit. The growth is just phenomenal. So I did use Thrive in both this tank and my 20-gallon tank, and hopefully we'll really see these plants start to come up, because like I said, I do want to plant out the other tank and get it going soon. That's going to be the next step, so hopefully within a couple of weeks you can actually get this next tank on the go. So I would like to thank everybody for the help with the Amazon purchase. That's really great that we were able to pick up some tools. They were really needed for our planted tanks. And I just want to thank everybody for watching, and I hope you guys all have yourself a great week.